God says you've been carrying a heaviness in your chest that you can't fully explain to anyone, not even to yourself. You feel His love, that part is undeniable. You sense the way His energy softens around you, the way His presence shifts when you walk into the room, the way His Spirit settles in ways He can't hide even if He tries. He loves you, yes. But something in His world keeps pulling Him away from what His heart is naturally drawn to. Something keeps Him tied, tangled, and emotionally stuck. And no matter how much He tries to step toward you, there's a force pulling Him in another direction. Not because He wants it, but because He doesn't know how to break free, and you've felt this conflict deep inside your soul. You've felt Him reaching for you one moment, then withdrawing the next. You've felt the warmth in His eyes when He looks at you, followed by the cold distance that comes out of nowhere. You felt the sincerity in His words, but also the hesitation in His actions. You felt the truth in His affection, but also the weight of His confusion. It's as if He's living two emotional realities at the same time, one that moves Him toward you and one that keeps Him anchored to a past He didn't choose anymore but can't seem to let go of. There is someone in His life who still holds a thread to His emotions, a thread He has not cut, a thread that keeps Him bound to memories, obligations, guilt, or unresolved pain. She is not in His heart the way you are. He does not dream of her the way He imagines a future with you. But her presence still influences Him, controls Him, or keeps Him emotionally attached in ways He doesn't fully understand. He might not love her in the way He loves you, but He can't let go of her completely because something about that past connection still has power over Him. You know this in your spirit. You've sensed it without knowing the details. You can feel it in His pauses, in His silence, in His hesitations. You can tell when her shadow crosses His mind, even if He never speaks her name. You're not imagining this. You're not overthinking this. Your intuition has been right the entire time. His love for you is real, but His emotional freedom is not. And that's the battle He keeps trying to hide, the battle between what He wants and what He feels trapped by. You've been patient with Him, hoping He'll eventually choose what's healthy instead of what's familiar. Hoping He'll choose connection instead of confusion. Hoping He'll choose peace instead of old wounds. But waiting has become its own kind of pain. Because you can feel Him slipping into your life and then slipping out again, like waves trying to touch the shore but being pulled back by a tide they can't resist. And every time He returns to you emotionally, it feels natural. It feels right. It feels effortless. But every time He retreats, it feels like your heart is left standing alone with questions you're too scared to ask. He hasn't let her go because He doesn't know how. He hasn't broken the tie because He doesn't know where to begin. He hasn't freed Himself because He's been living in emotional survival mode for so long that He's forgotten what true connection feels like. And you, with your clarity, your intuition, your warmth, your spirit, you've awakened something in Him He didn't expect. something he doesn't feel prepared for, something he doesn't believe he deserves yet, something that demands he confront his truth, not hide from it. It's not that he chooses her over you. It's that he hasn't learned to choose himself yet. And until he chooses himself, he cannot choose the future meant for him. He cannot step fully into the love he feels for you. He cannot break the emotional dependency that keeps him returning to cycles that hurt him more than they help him. But here is the part you've been sensing but haven't fully understood: the truth is rising. A shift is coming. His clarity is approaching. And the ties that bind him to her, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, are weakening day by day. Slowly. Quietly. Invisibly. But undeniably. What once held him with power no longer has the same grip. What once influenced his decisions is starting to lose its spell. What once felt like obligation is being exposed as manipulation. And little by little, he is waking up to the truth that the life he's been holding on to is not the life meant for him. The confusion you've been feeling is not a sign that you're losing him. It's a sign that he's reaching the breaking point between his past and his future. A future that aligns with the love he feels for you. A future that brings peace instead of chaos. A future that restores him instead of drains him. A future that reflects who he is becoming, not who he used to be. This tension, this emotional turbulence, this spiritual heaviness, it is the sign that truth is about to surface. And when truth rises, everything that has been hidden will be exposed. Everything that kept him stuck will fall apart. Everything he couldn't walk away from will lose its ability to hold him. He will see what he has been blind to. He will understand what he has been afraid to confront. And he will realize why your presence feels like healing, while hers feels like history. There is a moment in every person's life when their heart can no longer tolerate the weight of pretending. He has been carrying a burden of conflict for so long that it has become normal to him. He tries to convince himself that he can handle both worlds, that he can love you while still keeping the door cracked open to the past, that he can balance the pull of something real with the pressure of something familiar. But his spirit has been restless. His peace has been disturbed. And the deeper he feels for you, the more he is forced to acknowledge the truth he has been avoiding. He can't live fully in the present while holding on to the past. And he can't step into the love he feels for you while someone else still has emotional access to him. You've noticed how he changes when she reappears, even if only through messages, reminders, obligations, or shared connections. You've watched the light in him flicker. You've seen confusion replace clarity. You've felt his hesitation sharpen. It's almost like her presence pulls him into an old emotional identity, one he has outgrown but still feels responsible for. She represents a part of his story that should have ended long ago, but he kept holding on to it out of sympathy, guilt, or fear of confrontation. He doesn't love her the way he loves you, not even close. But emotional entanglement isn't always about love. Sometimes it's about unfinished wounds. Sometimes it's about patterns he learned too young. Sometimes it's about loyalty misplaced in the wrong direction. And sometimes it's simply about habit, the way the heart clings to what feels familiar even when it's not healthy. He worries what will happen if he fully lets go. He worries about hurting her. He worries about how she'll react. He worries about the chaos she might create if he truly chooses himself. He worries about the guilt that will follow, the judgment from others, the emotional mess he tries so hard to avoid. He has always carried more responsibility than he should. He has always sacrificed more of himself than anyone realized. And she knows that. She knows exactly which buttons to press to keep him tied, the guilt, the memories, the emotional weakness, the fear of being the bad one. And that's what has kept him stuck. Not love. Not desire. Not a future with her. But the fear of breaking a cycle that has shaped him for so long. Meanwhile, your presence has been awakening him. You make him see what real love feels like, steady, honest, grounded, hopeful. You make him see the difference between being needed and being valued. You make him see the difference between emotional manipulation and emotional maturity. You make him see that love isn't supposed to feel heavy, confusing, or guilt-driven. You make him question why he ever accepted less than he deserved, but with that awakening comes conflict. Because choosing you would mean choosing a version of himself he isn't used to yet, a version that requires courage, boundaries, honesty, and self-respect. And he's not sure he's strong enough to become that man. Not yet. That's why he hesitates. That's why you feel him oscillating between you and her. That's why some days he moves toward you with full heart, then suddenly retreats like he's afraid of what choosing you might expose inside himself. And you? You've been caught in the crossfire of a battle that began long before you arrived. You've been carrying emotions that are not yours. You've been feeling pain that doesn't belong to you. You've been trying to understand confusion that was never caused by you. You've been holding space for a man who is still trying to reclaim his emotional freedom. And none of this has been fair to your heart. None of this has been easy for your spirit. None of this has been simple for your mind, but there's something powerful happening beneath the surface. Something he doesn't fully realize, but you can feel in your intuition. His soul is getting tired of being torn. His heart is getting tired of explaining away the heaviness. His spirit is getting tired of pretending everything is fine. And life has a way of exposing what we refuse to confront, especially when the truth leads us to the place we are meant to be. He is being pushed toward a decision. Not by you. Not by her. But by the weight of his own truth. By the exhaustion he feels every time he goes back to cycles that suffocate him. By the peace he feels every time he is around you. By the clarity he senses when he imagines a future that aligns with his growth instead of his guilt. by the internal whisper that keeps saying, "This can't continue." The truth is, he has been living two emotional lives at once, one where he tries to show you he cares, and another where he feels obligated to remain tied to someone he has long outgrown. He has been stretched between loyalty and longing, between history and destiny, between comfort and calling. And even though he tries to hide it, God has already seen the conflict inside him. God has seen the messages he sends to you that sound genuine, yet carry hesitation. God has seen the moments he pulls you close with his heart but pushes you away with his circumstances. God has seen the promises he makes in the light and the doubts he wrestles with in the dark, and God knows you have felt those inconsistencies. You've felt the pauses, the delays, the silence that makes no sense. You've noticed the gaps between his affection and his decisions. You've seen him show up one day as if he is ready to choose you, only to disappear the next as if someone else still holds power over him. You've told yourself to be patient. You've told yourself to be understanding. You've told yourself that maybe time will settle everything. But your spirit has been whispering something deeper. This is not alignment. This is not clarity. Something is missing. That whisper wasn't doubt, it was discernment. It was God trying to keep you awake while your heart tried to fall asleep in a situation that was slowly draining you. It was God showing you that love should not feel like waiting on someone else's courage. It should not feel like competing with someone who still holds his past hostage. It should not feel like you're expected to carry the weight of a decision that is not yours to make. You have been carrying emotions that were never meant to be yours. You have been holding space for someone who has not yet learned how to hold space for himself, much less for you. But God is stepping in, not to punish him, and not to shame you, but to protect you. Because without divine interruption, you would continue hoping for a breakthrough he is not ready to walk into. Without divine intervention, you would keep giving from a place that has already emptied itself too many times. And God is saying this as gently as possible: you are not responsible for the chains someone else refuses to break. His attachment to her is not love, it is fear, obligation, familiarity, or guilt. It is a cycle he hasn't learned how to escape. It is a bond built on old wounds, old memories, and old promises that should have expired long ago. And God is about to expose every part of that chain, not to embarrass him, but to free you. Because you have reached the point where half-love is no longer acceptable. Confusion is no longer acceptable. Waiting for someone who won't move is no longer acceptable. God is showing you the truth not because the truth is painful, but because clarity is liberation. God is shaking the situation not because he wants you to suffer, but because he wants you to rise. And the moment someone cannot choose you fully, God will not allow you to keep choosing them blindly. God is lifting the veil so you can see that this is not a story about him versus her. This is a story about your spirit versus what is holding it back. This is about the life ahead of you versus the chains that want to keep you tied to someone who is tied to someone else. God is about to reveal what you couldn't see before, not because you were blind, but because you were hopeful. You believed in His potential. You believed in His heart. You believed that once He sorted through His emotional chaos, He would finally come toward you with clarity and confidence. And while your hope was sincere, He was not moving with the same level of intention. He was not healing. He was not choosing. He was not detaching from the past. He was surviving in a cycle that God never intended for either of you to be part of, but now, the season of confusion is ending. The fog is thinning. The truth is rising. And the same God who allowed you to experience this connection is the God who is about to show you exactly why it could never unfold the way you prayed for. Not because you were wrong for loving. Not because He is a bad person. But because spiritual mismatch creates emotional imbalance. When someone's heart wants you but their soul is still entangled elsewhere, the relationship cannot breathe. It cannot grow. It cannot anchor itself in honesty. It becomes a place where you are expected to wait for someone who isn't ready to be honest with themselves. You have spent too long trying to diagnose his heart. You have spent too long trying to interpret his mixed signals. You have spent too long trying to justify the wrong things and overlook the things your spirit never felt comfortable with. But your spirit is awake now. God is opening your eyes. And the moment your spirit awakens, emotional illusions lose their power. The moment God shines light into hidden corners, you can no longer pretend you don't see what has been hurting you. This is why you've been feeling distant lately. Even when He tries to show affection. This is why your heart feels unsettled, even when He says the right things. This is why you feel pulled away instead of pulled closer. Because God is disconnecting your spirit from anything that could delay your destiny. God is loosening the emotional knots that kept you tied to someone who was not prepared to walk the path you were meant for. God is removing the spiritual fog so you can finally see the truth without confusion, without guilt, without emotional distortion. And here is the truth God is revealing: love that is divided is not love that can lead you into your future. Affection without commitment is not alignment. Emotion without action is not destiny. Connection without clarity becomes a trap in slow motion. He cannot leave her because he still has wounds that were never healed. He still has guilt that was never released. He still has attachments that were built during a version of himself he hasn't grown out of yet. He still has fears that whisper to him louder than the love he feels for you. And God is saying, you cannot compete with what He hasn't confronted. You were never meant to fight for a place in someone's heart while they fight battles they won't admit they're losing. You were never meant to wait at the edge of someone else's indecision. You were never meant to carry the emotional weight that belongs to his healing. Not yours. And because you gave your heart with sincerity, God will not allow you to lose yourself in someone else's unfinished story. God is revealing this not to break you, but to free you. Not to hurt you, but to show you how protected you truly are. Because if God allowed this situation to continue the way it was, you would have poured yourself into a relationship that had no foundation. You would have sacrificed your peace for someone who couldn't even decide what peace looks like. You would have built a future with someone whose present is still entangled in the past. There is a moment in every story where God steps between you and the thing you keep trying to fix on your own. That moment has arrived. You may not have realized it yet, but the shift already began the day you stopped feeling excitement when he messaged you. The day you stopped believing his words the way you used to. The day your spirit no longer felt aligned with the version of him you once hoped for. That wasn't disinterest, that was protection. That wasn't emotional shutdown, that was divine redirection. God has been preparing your heart to detach long before your mind understood why. You were holding on to what you felt, but God was holding on to what he knew. And God knew this connection could only stretch you so far before it began to harm you. God knew the emotional back and forth would eventually drain you. God knew the mixed signals would chip away at your confidence. God knew that waiting for someone who is emotionally tied elsewhere would only keep you stuck in a cycle that does not honor your worth. And so, God began removing the illusion that someday would magically fix everything. God is showing you that love is not meant to feel like a competition. Love is not meant to feel like waiting for him to choose you after he untangles the mess he created or inherited. Love is not meant to feel like watching him struggle between two realities, one where he sees the future with you, and another where his fear pulls him back into what is familiar. Love should not require you to share space with someone who keeps you in emotional limbo. And here is what God needs you to understand now: your heart was never meant to sit in the shadow of someone else's confusion. Your worth was never meant to shrink just to fit into the leftover space of someone who cannot let go of the past. You are not the maybe in someone's life. You are not the backup until he gains clarity. You are not the emotional anchor he runs to when his other world collapses. You are not the temporary comfort while he sorts out his instability. God is revealing the truth so you can reclaim what you forgot: your identity, your strength, your value, your future. He is exposing what this man could not say out loud: that love alone is not enough when a person is divided. A divided heart cannot create a whole relationship. A divided life cannot pour into your spirit. A divided path cannot align with your destiny, and even though it hurts to admit, you have been giving your love to someone who is not capable of standing fully in the light with you. He wants you, but not enough to break free. He cares for you, but not enough to choose clarity. He feels for you, but not enough to confront the chains wrapped around him. And God will not let you settle for half of a man when he has prepared a whole love for you. This is why the emotional distance has increased. This is why the moments of confusion have become louder. This is why your intuition feels sharper. God is pulling back the curtain so you can see that this was never about you not being enough, it was about Him not being ready. It was about Him not being healed. It was about Him not being willing to step away from a situation that is spiritually stagnant but emotionally familiar. God is not revealing this truth to make you bitter. He's revealing it to make you wiser, stronger, free. Because the moment you see the truth clearly, the chains lose their power. The attachment breaks. The illusion dissolves. And your spirit begins to rise again, remembering who you are and what you deserve. You are entering a season where God is no longer allowing you to love from a place of blindness or emotional exhaustion. You have given enough chances, waded through enough uncertainty, and held yourself together through storms that were never meant for you. God saw every tear you wiped quietly. God saw every moment you tried to convince yourself that if you just waited a little longer, if you just loved a little harder, if you just showed more patience, things would finally make sense. But love is not supposed to feel like a test you keep failing. Love is not supposed to feel like a puzzle that never fits. Love is not supposed to drain you faster than it fills you, for too long. You tried to carry the weight of a man who was emotionally split between you and a past he couldn't release. You stood in the middle of someone else's inner war, hoping somehow that love would be enough to bring him clarity. You believed that eventually he would choose courage over comfort. You believed that eventually he would step out of the shadows and walk into the light with you. But God is removing the veil now, because the truth has sat in your spirit long enough. He cannot go where God is taking you. He cannot follow you into your next chapter because He has not closed the door to His own last chapter. He is still tied to a cycle that God is breaking you away from. He is still attached to someone whose season in His life should have ended long ago. He is still trying to manage emotions that are not aligned with the future God wrote for him. And no matter how much He cares about you, caring is not the same as choosing. Caring is not the same as changing. Caring is not the same as healing, and you must understand, God will not allow you to build a future with a man whose heart is still negotiating with the past. You deserve love that is undivided. You deserve a partner who does not hesitate. You deserve commitment that does not compete with loyalty to old wounds. You deserve presence, not promises. You deserve consistency, not confusion. You deserve a love that stands in the open, not one that hides behind excuses, delays, and emotional knots. This is why God is stepping in so forcefully now. This is why every unanswered question is being answered through revelation. This is why every hidden truth is being brought to the surface. God is not punishing you, God is protecting you. Because if He allowed you to continue in this connection, you would keep pouring into a heart that is still pouring into someone else. You would keep waiting on a man who is waiting on closure he refuses to seek. You would keep trying to move forward with someone who is standing still, and God loves you too much to let you remain stuck in a story that was never meant to progress. You may wonder why God allowed this man into your life in the first place. You may wonder why the connection felt so strong. Why the emotions felt so real. Why the pull between your hearts was undeniable. Sometimes God allows a connection not because it is meant to last, but because it is meant to teach. Sometimes God allows love to enter your life not to stay, but to awaken something inside you. This man came into your life to reveal your capacity to love, to hope, to feel deeply. But he was never the destination. He was a mirror, showing you what you are capable of giving and what you deserve in return. He awakened a part of your heart, but he cannot fulfill what your heart needs. He sparked something in you, but he cannot carry it. He opened a door inside you, but he cannot walk through it with you. And now, God is closing the chapter with clarity so you can walk away without guilt, without regret, without the weight of what if on your shoulders. God is freeing you from emotional limbo. God is severing every spiritual tie that has kept you bound to a situation that was draining your purpose. God is releasing you so you can rise. You are stepping into a season where real love will not make you shrink. Real love will not make you question your worth. Real love will not leave you competing for attention. Real love will not require you to share a man's heart with the ghosts of his past. Real love will meet you in clarity, in honesty, in peace. And here is the truth God is whispering into your spirit now: you are not losing him. You are finding yourself. You are not being abandoned. You are being redirected. You are not being punished. You are being protected. You are not being rejected. You are being positioned. You are not walking away empty. You are walking away free. Your future does not depend on a man who cannot let go of the past. Your destiny does not hinge on someone else gaining courage. Your heart will not remain in a waiting room God never asked you to sit in. You are stepping into a chapter where love chooses you openly, fully, fearlessly. A chapter where a man does not have to be convinced to stand with you. He does it willingly. A chapter where you no longer have to read between the lines, because his words and actions match effortlessly. A chapter where you are not an option, but a priority. A chapter where you are not a secret, but a blessing. So breathe. Release. Allow the truth to settle. God is not taking something away from you. God is removing what was blocking what he has prepared for you. And when the right man steps into your life, whole, healed, ready, you will look back on this moment and understand why God wouldn't let you settle. You will understand why God had to reveal the truth. You will understand why the waiting, the hurting, the confusion were necessary. Because they led you here, to clarity, to freedom, to alignment, to your real blessing. Your heart is being prepared for a love that will not compete with anything from the past, a love that will not hesitate, a love that will not divide itself, a love that will recognize you immediately, and choose you without fear. This is your release. This is your redirection. This is your protection. This is your breakthrough.